Ilara Voss had learned, long ago, that it was safer to be invisible. She lived at the edge of Blackmore Vale, in a small stone cottage that leaned slightly to one side, as if it too were tired of standing against the wind. Her grandmother had raised her there since she was 6 years old, ever since the night her parents disappeared into the forest and never came back. The villagers said the wolves had taken them. Her grandmother never said anything at all. Ilara grew up quiet. She kept her eyes down in the market, she wore her collar buttoned high, and she never, ever wandered near the tree line after dark. The tree line was where the kingdom of men ended and the territory of the wolf packs began, and everyone knew the two did not mix. But on the morning everything changed, Ilara had no choice but to go there. Her grandmother's cough had grown worse through the winter, and the only herb that eased it, silverleaf, grew wild near the old watchtower ruins, just past the tree line. Ilara told herself she would be quick, in and out before sunrise. No one would even know she had gone. She was wrong. The forest was silent when she stepped past the first line of trees, silver with frost, the kind of silence that made her own heartbeat sound too loud. She found the silver leaf growing in a patch near a fallen log, and knelt to gather it, her fingers stiff with cold. That was when she felt it, a prickling at the back of her neck, the unmistakable sense of being watched. She stood slowly and turned. 3 pairs of eyes glowed at her from the shadows between the trees. Wolves, but not ordinary ones. These were the shifter packs of Blackmore Vale, the rulers of the forest, and she had wandered straight into their land. A low growl rolled through the clearing, and then, impossibly, one of the wolves spoke, its voice rough and half-human, even in wolf form. Human scent, it said, unclaimed. Ilara did not understand what that meant, not yet, but she understood the way the wolves began to circle her, the way their growls sharpened into something eager, almost hungry, in a way that had nothing to do with food. She turned and ran. Branches tore at her sleeves as she sprinted through the trees, her breath burning in her chest. Behind her, she heard more howls answering the first, spreading out across the forest like ripples on a pond. It was not just 3 wolves anymore. It felt like the whole forest had woken up and turned its attention toward her. She did not know that her scent, the one she had always thought was simply her own, carried something ancient within it, something that called to every wolf in the kingdom like a bell being rung in the dead of night. Ilara ran until her legs gave out near the crumbling stones of the old watchtower, the same ruins where she had once played as a child, back when the world felt safer. She pressed her back against the cold stone, chest heaving, and watched as wolves emerged from every direction, forming a loose circle around her. Gray ones, black ones, one with fur the color of rust, all of them staring at her with the same unsettling hunger. "She smells like the old blood," one of them murmured. "Whoever claims her first," said another, "claims a queen's bloodline." Ilara pressed her hand instinctively to her collarbone, where a birthmark shaped like a crescent moon had rested since her birth. The villagers had always called it a curse. She had always believed them. The wolves began to close in, slow and deliberate, when the ground beneath them shuddered. It was not an earthquake. It was footsteps, heavy and unhurried, coming from somewhere deep in the forest. Every wolf in the clearing froze, ears flattened, tails dropped low. Ilara watched, confused, as the fiercest creatures she had ever seen suddenly looked like frightened pups. Mist curled between the trees, and out of it walked a wolf, larger than any she had seen, its fur black as a moonless sky, its eyes burning gold even in the gray morning light. It did not run. It did not need to. Every other wolf in the clearing dropped to the ground, baring their throats in submission. The great black wolf stopped a few feet from Ilara, and, in a shimmer of shadow and light, shifted into the form of a man. He was tall, broad-shouldered, his dark hair falling loose around a face marked with old scars that spoke of countless battles. He wore no crown, needed none. Authority radiated from him the way heat radiates from a flame. He looked at Ilara, and the moment his gaze met hers, something flickered in his golden eyes, a recognition that seemed to shake him to his core. "Stand down," he said to the wolves, his voice quiet but carrying easily across the clearing. "All of you." They obeyed instantly. He turned back to Ilara, studying her with an intensity that made her want to look away, and yet somehow could not. "What is your name?" he asked. "Ilara," she managed. "Ilara Voss." Something crossed his face, surprise, and beneath it, something gentler. "Ilara," he repeated softly, as though testing the shape of it. "I am Chaol Draven, Alpha King of Blackmoor Vale." She had heard the name before, whispered in the village with equal parts fear and awe. The king of all the wolf packs, the one even the fiercest alphas answered to. She had never imagined she would stand before him, shaking, with dried leaves in her hair, and her heart hammering against her ribs. Chaol knelt slightly, bringing himself to her eye level, and for a moment, the fearsome authority in his posture softened into something almost careful. "You are not in danger from me," he said, "but I need you to understand something. Your scent, it is not ordinary. It carries the mark of an old bloodline, one every wolf in this kingdom would recognize and be drawn to. That is why they hunted you, not out of cruelty, out of instinct." "What bloodline?" Ilara whispered. "One I thought had vanished generations ago," he said. Then, quieter, almost to himself, "Until now." He rose and extended a hand toward her. "Come with me. You will be safe within my walls. I will explain everything I can." Ilara hesitated. Every instinct told her to run, the way she had run her whole life from anything unfamiliar. But the wolves who had chased her through the forest were still crouched low around them, watching her with hungry, calculating eyes, and she understood, with sudden clarity, that she had no other choice that would keep her alive. She took his hand. The stronghold of the Alpha King rose from the heart of the forest like something out of an old story, towers of gray stone wrapped in ivy, windows glowing warm with firelight even in the cold morning. Ilara had never seen anything like it. She had never imagined she would be brought inside it either. Chaol gave her a room with a fire already burning, warm blankets, and food she did not touch at first. Too unsettled to trust any of it, he did not press her. Over the following days he visited her often, always asking before entering, always keeping his distance until she was ready to close it herself. It was on the third evening that he finally told her the truth she had been waiting for. "Long ago," he said, sitting across from her by the fire, "the first wolf packs of this land formed a bond with a family of humans, healers who understood the old magic of the forest better than any wolf could. That bond created something rare, children born with a mark, like yours, who carried a scent that called to every pack as kin. They were protectors of balance between our two peoples, guardians, in their way." "And then?" Ilara asked. "And then the bloodline was hunted," Chaol said, his jaw tightening. "Rival packs feared the power such a bond gave to a single family. They believed whoever claimed a descendant of that bloodline as a mate would gain influence over every pack in the kingdom. Your family went into hiding. I believe your parents were part of that same effort to protect you." Ilara's breath caught. "You know what happened to them?" "I do not know where they are," Chaol admitted gently, "but I do not believe they are gone the way the village assumes. I believe they hid you to keep you safe from exactly what happened in that forest." Tears burned in Ilara's eyes, but for the first time in years, they were not tears of grief alone. There was hope tangled in with them, fragile but real. Over the following weeks, Ilara slowly began to trust her new surroundings, and more than that, she began to trust Chaol. He was nothing like the fearsome ruler the village legends had painted him as. He was patient, he listened. When rival alphas came to challenge his claim over her, he did not simply overpower them with strength. He reasoned, negotiated, and when necessary, drew a firm line that protected her without turning her into a prize to be displayed. She began to understand, too, why the golden light had flared in his eyes the moment they met. It was the mate bond, an ancient connection between wolf and true match, one that could not be forced, only recognized. Chaol never pushed her to accept it. He simply let her see, day by day, the kind of man he was. She saw it in the way he treated the servants of his stronghold with respect rather than command. She saw it in the quiet moments when he sat with her by the fire, asking about her grandmother, her childhood, the small ordinary details of a life she had thought no one would ever care about. She saw it in the way his shoulders relaxed only when she was near, as though some deep unrest inside him finally found rest in her presence. Slowly, carefully, Ilara began to fall in love with him. But peace in Blackmore Vale never lasted long. One night, a Malfa named Ronan, ruler of a rival pack and long resentful of Chaol's authority, saw his chance. He believed that if he could break the mate bond by taking Ilara for himself, he could seize control over the packs that answered only to bloodline and instinct. He led a small group of loyal wolves in a raid on the edge of the stronghold, striking, while Chaol was occupied settling a dispute in the lower village. Ilara was in the garden when they came for her, moving fast and silent through the trees. She fought as best she could, but she was human, and they were not. She was dragged toward the tree line, calling out for help she was not certain would come in time. It came. Chaol arrived like a storm breaking over the forest, his golden eyes blazing, his roar shaking the very branches overhead. He did not hesitate. He fought Ronan with a ferocity Ilara had never witnessed, a battle not just for territory, but for the person who had become his entire world. The clash was brutal and fast, wolf against wolf, until finally, Chaol stood victorious, Ronan submitting beneath him, defeated and stripped of any claim he had tried to make. Chaol shifted back to his human form and rushed to Ilara's side, his hands trembling as he checked that she was unharmed. "I almost lost you," he said, voice rough with emotion he did not try to hide. "You didn't," Ilara whispered, reaching for him. "You came." "I will always come," he said, "every time, for as long as I live." Standing there in the torchlight, surrounded by the wolves who had once hunted her and now watched with quiet respect, Ilara finally understood what her birthmark truly meant. It was not a curse. It had never been a curse. It was a mark of belonging, one that had led her, through fear and danger, to exactly where she was always meant to be. She looked up at Chaol, and for the first time, she did not hesitate. "I accept the bond," she said softly, "not because I have to, because I choose to." Chaol's eyes softened, gold catching the firelight, and he pulled her gently into his arms. As dawn broke over Blackmore Vale the following morning, the packs gathered before the stronghold, kneeling in a great circle around their king, and the woman who would stand beside him as Luna. The same wolves who had chased her through the forest weeks before now bowed their heads in respect, their instinct to hunt replaced by something steadier, loyalty. Ilara Voss, once the girl who tried to be invisible, once the girl hunted through her own homeland, stood tall beneath the rising sun, her crescent birthmark catching the morning light like a promise finally kept. She was no longer prey, she was queen, and beside her, the Alpha King, who had once declared her his mate at dawn, now looked at her the way the sun looks at the horizon each morning, with certainty, with warmth, and with the quiet knowledge that some bonds, once found, are never broken again.